The following is a video presentation of a morning worship service at Orrville Baptist Church.
Sing praises with a skillful song. God reigns over the nations. God sits on his holy throne. The princes of the people have assembled themselves as the people of the God of Abraham, for the shields of the earth belong to God. He is highly exalted. You know, I'm very transparent with each and every one of you. I told you I like to be transparent. And I'll be honest. I hope you're doing well this week. I'll tell you, I feel rotten this morning. I didn't get any sleep. I'm running on empty. I've kind of shared before that I recognize we need rain. We're blessed to have this rain. Can't help it. It brings me down. Always has and always will. And yet, with all of that going on, and being able to say, you know what, I feel absolutely rotten. There is no place I would rather be than with an assembly of Christians worshiping God. That's exactly where I want to be. Not in just this building, but amongst His people. That's what I look forward to, is our worship. So I can take all the rottenness, I can take all the gray that comes with these skies. Give me Jesus. Give me people that I can celebrate Jesus with. That's what I'm excited about this morning. I'll run through just a couple of very, very quick announcements. Did I leave my announcements down there? No, I put them in my Bible. You can take your bulletin. I'm going to be very, very quick. Business as usual for the remainder of the week. Would love to see you here tonight, back in this very building for our evening worship. We sing and pray and go through the scriptures starting at 6 o'clock. And then, of course, Wednesday, we continue on with our study of the Sermon on the Mount. We are now in Matthew 6. That is at 6:30 over in the Hayes building. I do want to run this past you real quick, a little bit of a short notice, but February 11th. Okay? So February 11th will be the widow, this is all a tongue twister, widower, single senior luncheon. There is going to be a sign-up sheet when you walk out here this morning. It'll be in the very back. We'd love to see you sign up for that. Here's what we're going to do. Very, very simple. We'll have a spaghetti meal. That'll be after the service on February the 11th. Have spaghetti, bread, that kind of thing. And widowers, and single seniors, you're our special spotlight that afternoon. We want to serve you. And so please sign up for that. It is open to anyone. And so anyone can sign up. Just understand that if you're signing up and you're not a widower, or single senior, you're coming as a servant first, and then you're coming to eat second. So we'll come together. We'll have a good lunch together, a good time to celebrate our widowers, and single seniors, enjoy fellowship, and we want to serve you. So we'll eat afterwards. We'll let you go first, and we'll make sure you're having a good meal first, and then we'll eat. I want to remind you that the food pantry has gotten very, very low. Please continue to pray and ask how you might want to get to that. Thank you for your contributions that you've been giving. People desperately need it in our area, very hungry. We've done a lot of really good work providing food for many in our area. So I'm very excited for us to continue doing that. So consider giving to the food pantry. And of course, I always want to tell you about Tuesday at 4:30 in that building, the Hayes Fellowship Hall. We need people. We do. We need people to come and to simply sit and to let people know we care about them. A lot of hands and a lot of bodies and a lot of people that arrive on Tuesday. If you can't get there right at 4:30, that's okay. We're there for at least an hour, sometimes an hour and a half. So we would love to see you there. And I want you to know that you're needed there. It's not just open for me to say I'd be happy to see you there. I certainly would. I want you to know we need you. And there's a whole lot of people in our area coming to our very grounds. They need to be surrounded by people who know that we care. Surrounded by people who know they care, that they're cared about. That's what I'm trying to say. So consider that. Pray about that. Pray how you can be involved in it. We'd love to see you there. I'm excited for us this morning. I'm excited for us to start a new chapter of Acts. I'm excited what the Word of God has to say to us, what God has to say to us through His Word and our fellowship, and our prayer, and our singing. Again, this is what gets me going. It's not the things in the world. It's not how I'm feeling. It's being here, knowing our purpose and our calling, to worship God in all things. That excites me. That gets me going. I pray that you're as excited as I am this morning. So let's go to the Father and pray.
This is
To what depths would you go to reach someone with the gospel? Very open-ended question. Seems like a very odd question. But what would you do? How far would you go to reach someone with the gospel of Christ? I think it's a hard question to answer. We are in a country where we know that we are free to go and preach. You can go outside right now. You can approach anyone. You can say, do you know who Jesus Christ is? You begin a gospel conversation with them. And so it's strange for us to kind of ask that question, what would you do in order to reach? But what if there were hindrances? What if there were barriers between us and others? What would we be willing to do to get to those people? Brothers and sisters, I'm telling you, we're at a pivotal moment in Acts. Really, we're in a series of pivotal moments. We've been seeing pivotal moment after pivotal moment for the past few weeks. In Acts 15, the Jerusalem Council, they determined that man is saved by grace alone, in alignment with the Spirit leading them. That it was not about circumcision, it was not about adhering to the law or fulfilling the law themselves, it was about trusting in the work of the one who has come, who has fulfilled the law for us, not in what our hands could do. And then we studied Paul and Barnabas, and we see these portraits of what a disciple maker looks like. We see what disciple making looks like. We've seen a disagreement between these two turn into a big fight. It was not some tiny little disagreement. It turned into a big fight. We did that last Sunday evening between Paul and Barnabas. And yet, even in that, God in His sovereignty, God still used it to take that split, to take that disagreement, that big fight. And instead of having one, quote, missionary trip, we have two members going in two different directions. God, in His infinite sovereignty, still uses what we think are, quote, bad things for His own glory, for the good of others. And as we open up and begin chapter 16 of this magnificent book, we're going to see the heart. We're still in disciple-making mode. It's Acts, the entire book is. But we're looking at the heart of the disciple-maker once again. We need to ask ourselves this morning that question, to what depths? How far? What would we do to reach others with the good news of Christ? And the answer is not always about money or resources or materials or things we can give, and that's not always the answer, even though we kind of always go that way to begin with. It also includes our very own denial, self-sacrifice. It's much more than just financial giving. I'm always amazed at reading the incredible tales of missionaries who have ventured across this entire globe and the things that they have gone through, the depths at which they have gone to reach others with the good news of the gospel. It blows me away. And I'm amazed by those stories. I'm also very humbled by those stories. As I come across them, I get really convicted because I take a lot of pride in myself and these hands and what I do day in and day out for the Lord. And then I realize it amounts to peanuts compared to what a lot of people have done. And they risk everything for the sake of the gospel, for the cause of Christ. put their life literally in danger every waking second so that others would know who Jesus is. And it just makes me feel about this tall to see that and to know. John Piper likens the average Christian life to the American dream in the sense that we have a system. You're taught that you need to do this, A, B, C, check off the list, work, grow up, continue working, retire, kick back. That's kind of the American system that we all want to do. And he illustrates this Christian lifestyle to the American dream in that working and then retire by explaining where many people end up when they retire. Because for a lot of people, they will work and a well-deserved retirement. They'll go to Florida and they will spend the remainder of their days with all good reason picking up seashells, collecting seashells on the shore. They'll take them back to their house and they'll have a nice collection. It looks real pretty and it's nice to look back and it's a thing, you know, I worked my tail off. I deserve to take a step back. And surely those people do. They do deserve that. But he also says for many Christians, we view our salvation as an early retirement. We've arrived, we've achieved, we're saved, and now it's time to kick back and relax. And he says there's going to be a day that comes when we stand before God and we're going to account for all we've done. And we're going to quiver, and we're going to shake. And we're going to have an overwhelming fear come over our entire soul. And as we look upon God and His infinite holiness, and His infinite majesty, and His infinite wisdom, and all of the characteristics of this eternal, holy God, and He will say, what is it about your life? And all we have left are shells. And say, look what I did. And that's how we'll have to justify ourselves with. And he says that's not the Christian life at all. It's not to sit back and relax. It's not to kick back and just collect. That life is better described by what we did not do instead of what we sacrificed for the Lord. And so you start Acts 16. I want us to see models of disciples who sacrifice in the life of Paul and in the life of Timothy. And I pray that each of us here this morning are renewed and refreshed with this sense of urgency and passion for the Great Commission to make disciples of all nations, no matter the cost. So turn me to Acts 16. We're going to go through verses 1 through 5 this morning. And there are 4 keys I want us to focus in and zero in on looking at Paul and Timothy. 4 distinctions. You can call it whatever you want to. For sacrificial disciples. What we want to be. So verse by verse. One verse at a time. Let's begin with verse 1. Acts 16, verse 1. Paul came also to Derbe and to Lystra, and a disciple was there named Timothy, the son of a Jewish woman who was a believer, but his father was a Greek. It seems pretty straightforward enough. The first thing I want us to see this morning, disciples exhibit a spirit of boldness. Disciples exhibit a spirit of boldness. Proverbs 28:1 says the following. It says, the wicked flee when no one is pursuing, but the righteous are bold as a lion. God's people have always been characterized by boldness. All throughout, from Genesis to Revelation, you see the people of God being bold in their faith. We could just do example after example. You see David, not just, I'll go fight Goliath, but eager to stand in the face of death. You see Elijah openly mock the prophets of Baal, who outnumbered him. In a major, major way. He says, I serve the living God, the one true God. And even mocks Baal. Says, where is your God? Where is he? What is he doing? Is he sleeping? It's this true boldness that is found in the people of God. More recently, Stephen fixating on the glory of God, looking into the skies as stones are hurled at his face. And he becomes a martyr for the cause. And now, I'd say there's one more example of a bold Christian, a bold follower of Christ, a bold disciple, and that's Paul going to Lystra. And you say, wait, David and Elijah and Stephen, and you talk about Moses and all these. How is Paul simply walking into Lystra? How is that bold at all? Well, it hasn't been that long ago. Think back to Acts 14. It's only 2 chapters back. He preaches the gospel, Paul and Barnabas, in Lystra. And you remember what happened there? A group of people were standing around, and they're amazed by what Paul and Barnabas are doing. And they start saying, well, you must be Zeus and Hermes. And started attributing all these great things to them being gods and thought it was amazing. And Paul says, we're just men like you. We are no different. We're not Zeus. We're not Hermes. Now turn from these false gods these dead gods, and turned to the one true living God. Just a few short verses later, in verse 19 of chapter 14, here's what you read from the Word of God. But Jews came from Antioch and Iconium, and having won over the crowds, they stoned Paul and dragged him out of the city, supposing him to be dead. And where is Paul going back? Lystra, the one place where they left him for dead, stoned him, beat him within an inch of his life, and left him. They beat him so badly they thought he was actually perished, gone. And now he's heading back. These moments stick with you. Do you think Paul remembered that? Absolutely, I guarantee you he did. There was many, many years ago, it's been quite some time, our family used to go to the, Ocean Lakes, think of it, well, campground every single year. It got too big, my goodness, but it used to be a little bit smaller. And you know, if you've ever been to Ocean Lakes, the one thing you do is you get on golf carts and you drive around for 8 hours a day. I don't know why, but that's something you do. And I was riding on the very back. My sister was driving. And I guess we got lucky with the place we rented that year, but our golf cart was pretty quick. And I'm sitting on the back, we're all packed in, we got all of our gear, my mom's here, my dad's here, 3 people in this tiny little back seat. My sister's just going crazy on that golf cart. I said, "You've got to slow down." I said, "Yeah, I'm barely hanging on here." And she's, saying, "Oh, hush, you're fine." And of course, she takes this one turn really, really fast. We're on the pavement. So I've got skin peeled from my neck all the way down to my back when she threw me off the golf cart. The long story short, I don't ride on the back of golf carts anymore because I remember what happened. It stuck with me. It hurt really, really bad. I got up, my sister said, "Oh, you're fine." I turned around and said, "Oh!" That's how I knew. That's how I knew it was pretty bad, and it hurt very bad. And so I'm not going to ride back on a golf cart anymore because I don't want to get thrown off of one and tear my back up. Paul knows where he's going. He remembers everything that happened to him. He remembers being beaten within an inch of his life, and he says, I'm going. I'm going back to the exact same place. Boldly declaring the gospel, boldly wanting to go into that city to see the disciples that had been made and check on them. As you see at the end of the 15th chapter, he wants to check on their progress. He wants to see how the church is doing. He wants to encourage them. He wants to strengthen them. He wants to see how things are going. That is a bold, bold love that is rarely seen today. Incredibly bold love. Risking it all, not just to make more disciples, although he wanted to. Remember, these are people that he is essentially a church plant. Disciples that he made. He's risking his life not just to make new disciples, but also to check on the ones that are already there. That is a deep, deep, profound love. And old Paul, he would tell you it was worth it. That's what I love about the character and the man of Paul who's been saved by Christ. He'd tell you 1,000,000 times over, it was so worth it to be beaten within an inch of my life to see what God did through me. It was totally worth it. And on top of that, the city of Lystra, in that city was a young man. A young man who witnessed that stoning back in Acts 14. He's heard the gospel call. He's saved by grace alone. If anything, the stoning of Paul just strengthened him and encouraged him more. Solidified his faith in a sense. So read the rest of verse 1. And a disciple was there named Timothy, the son of a Jewish woman who was a believer, but his father was a Greek. We don't have time to go into all the trappings of their relationship, although I'd like to this morning, but I can't for time's sake. But Paul and Timothy had a very special relationship. A very, very special relationship. We believe at this point, just kind of the way the structure of the sentence is, we believe that Timothy's real father has perished. The best guess is that he's not around. In some way or another, he has died. And so there's this young man, anywhere from 16 to the early 20s, young fella, that over that time, and with Paul, he gains a new spiritual father. He gains this new model in his life. Incredibly special relationship. And as we switch from verses 1 to 2, we go from looking at Paul to looking at Timothy for the heart of a disciple. So first you see the disciple exhibits this boldness that we often don't pursue. And we switch into Timothy for verse 2. Let's go to verse 2. And he was well spoken of by the brethren who were in Lystra and Iconium, Second point this morning, disciples exhibit good character. There was a point in my life, and to an extent we all say, I care about what God thinks, not what man thinks. But there was a point in my life, you can call it whatever you want. You can call it a rebellious stage. I really don't care. There was a point in my life, if you asked me, or if you said to me, what would people think, I would look you in the eye. And I would say, I could not care any less about what any single person thinks about me. I could care one iota what any person thinks about me at any given moment. There was a time in my life where I operated that way every single day. If you had a problem with me, that was your problem, not mine. I was just fine the way I was. I would look anybody in the eye and I would say, if you have a problem with me, that's on you. You're going to have to wrestle with that. Because I'm living life and I could really care less. It does not bother me at all. And I'm telling you now, that is the wrong way to operate. Especially for one who's called a Christian. For one who said they follow Christ. Not everyone's going to like you, by the way. Not everyone's going to like me. That's just human nature. Not everyone is promised to like you. You can't control if someone likes you or they don't. But what you can control is the character that you exhibit. We all can. The things that we are in control of is not making people's minds up for them, but we are in control of what we showcase. What kind of character we display. And it's really easy to go through this world saying, I don't know what anyone thinks of me, I don't care what anyone thinks of me. It's very easy to get into that mindset. It doesn't bother me what anyone thinks of me. But in reality, if you're going to follow Christ, we had better be concerned what people think about us. And that sounds so opposite as to what really matters, doesn't it? Deep down, does it matter what somebody thinks of you? I mean, yeah. But on the outside, we will all say, no, not really. But it does. It truly, truly does matter what people think of us. And it's not because we want to feel good about ourselves either. We should not uphold good character for the sake of feeling good. Or just because it's the thing to do. But it's simple. I encourage anyone to try. You're going to try to effectively go into this world and make disciples of the right character. Just try. It can't be done. People are not going to trust us. They're not going to trust us. They're not going to listen to anything we have to say. If I'm known as a liar and a cheat and a scoundrel, conceited, only looks out for myself, doesn't care about anyone else, but yet I go into the streets and people know me and I say, Jesus loves you and he wants to save you, they're going to listen to me. No. They're going to tune me out. They're going to say, what does he know about love? What does he know about sacrifice? What does he know about Christ when he shows nothing like it? People will tune us out when our character does not match the message we preach. When those things are at odds with each other, it ruins our testimony. Galatians 2:20. Oddly enough, if you look on the front of your bulletin, was included in there, but that was not planned. Galatians 2:20 says, I have been crucified with Christ. And it is no longer I who live, but Christ lives in me. And the life which I now live in the flesh, I live by faith in the Son of God, who loved me and gave himself up for me. Having Christian character, it is not about behavior modification, or just being good for the sake of being good. If you're saved by grace, by the grace of God, and have been crucified with Christ, and have become a new creation, Paul says, it's no longer we who live, it is Christ who lives in us. And if our character does not reflect that, what message are we spreading to the world? If we have been crucified with Christ, and he is living in us, and yet our character says something completely different, how effective are we going to be handling the gospel? Not very effective. And so it's not to earn salvation, it's not to feel good, it's not to impress anyone else. Our character matters because our testimony matters. Our boldness matters. Our obedience matters. And when our character contradicts those things, we're not a very effective disciple maker. People are going to tune us out. They have nothing to listen to us. And why would they? I wouldn't want to listen either. Think about Timothy here. In Acts 14, when Paul is stoned and is beaten within an inch of his life, and Timothy's there. And he sees all this happen. And it says already, as Paul's coming here in Acts 16, there's a disciple there named Timothy. He's saved. He's a disciple of Christ. When Paul comes back this time, he sees a mature Timothy. He sees a young man who is well known in the area. Everyone speaks highly of him. Everyone knows his character. They know his heart. And so you might be asking, well, this character, all this stuff, and Paul notices, what do I do with that? How do they connect to each other? Good thing you ask. Look no further than verse 3. You're going to see why this character, again, is so very important. Look at verse 3. Paul wanted this man to go with him, talking about Timothy. And he took him and circumcised him because of the Jews who were in those parts, for all knew that his father was a Greek. Third point this very morning. Disciples exhibit a life of sacrifice. I could spend a lot more time here than I'd like to. I think this is a really, really big verse. A really, really important verse. First off, imagine your character being so highly thought of and revered in the area that when the Apostle Paul comes through, he says, I want you to go on a mission trip with me. You see what our character does? It also opens up opportunities for us to be used in disciple making. Paul sees the man Timothy, the young boy Timothy, and says, you're coming with me. God's going to use you, son. You have the character, you have the witness, you have the preaching, you have the gospel of Christ living in you. You're coming with me. So first and foremost, I think that's amazing. This is the same Paul who we just finished up in chapter 15, him saying, I don't trust Mark. He's not going with us. It's the same Paul who does that, says, I want this young Timothy coming with us. That's big. That's really, really big. I argue that's a big statement as far as Timothy is concerned. And what's crazy to think about is we have just finished a chapter. Think about this. We just finished a chapter in which they argued and argued and argued. How is man saved? Well, it's not by circumcision. It's by grace. It's not by things of the law. It's by grace. It's not by you upholding the law. It's by grace. And yet here, what happens? Paul has Timothy circumcised. And the verse gives us the answer as to why. Because of the Jews who were in those parts. Timothy had a Jewish mother and a Greek father. He would have never been accepted and considered a full Jew in the synagogue. And where did Paul always go first when he went to a city to evangelize? The synagogue. So he says, I bring this young man Timothy with me. We're going to go to all these synagogues. They're not going to accept him. So what do we have to do? We're going to circumcise him. That's why. It's not for salvation. It has nothing to do with salvation. Paul is not talking about you need to be circumcised to be saved. He's saying be circumcised so you can be an effective witness to Jews as we go to synagogues. And so as he visits cities, he goes to these people. Now there's a young boy who can't be considered just an outsider. They'll accept him as a true Jew. Paul and Timothy both of them knew if they wanted to reach the Jewish people, they would need to go through with it. And that's not an easy choice to make. Not at that age. Kidding me? This is a grown man going through circumcision. Why? To be saved? No. Because he wants to reach the Jews. That's a huge, huge sacrifice to make. That's painful. And yet he considers it worth it to go through with it. This is why I said being a disciple of Christ is not always about just financial, material resources. It's not just about these type of things. It's about doing this. Whatever it takes to reach the lost. That's sacrificial when you say that. I will do whatever it takes to reach the lost with the gospel of Christ. One of my favorite verses to show this, one of my absolute favorite verses to show this is from 2 Corinthians. I absolutely love this. To the weak I became weak, that I might win the weak. I have become all things to all men, so that I may by all means save some. I do all things for the sake of the gospel, so that I may become a fellow partaker of it. We usually have it in our heads that people need to meet our type of standard in which we can consider them saved, so to speak. They need to conform to us to be saved. And Paul says, do the opposite. It's not about bringing someone up to your perceived level of goodness in which they can be saved. He said, I've been crucified with Christ. It's no longer me who lives, but it's Christ who lives in me. So I'm more than willing to do whatever it takes to become whatever I need to become so that men and women will be saved with the gospel. Paul and Timothy were sacrificial in this way. In a sense, they would do anything, short of sinning, of course. Even something detrimental to themselves and their own health to effectively spread the gospel to those who need it. That is major. That is so bold. That is so courageous. That's such an example of self-denial. There's a really, really famous story that gets me every time. There's a missionary by the name of James Calvert. He was I think he was Methodist. Yeah, he was. He was not Wesleyan. That's the Wesleyan. No, he was Methodist. A long time ago, he wanted to go to the islands of Fiji. This is one that just kind of like crumples my heart because I compare it to that question of what am I doing with my life today. James Calvert wanted to go to the Fiji Islands and he took his wife and a small, very small group with him. So he gets on the ship, they're sailing out, and the captain turns to James and he says, if you go and you finish the rest of this trip, you're going to lose your life, and all those that you brought with you are going to be dead. I'm begging you, please, let me turn this ship around and let's go back home. You're going to die. Your wife is going to die. And this party of people are all going to die. And the reason he said that is because at the time, in the Fiji Islands, the people there were cannibals. And James Calvert said, I want to reach them with the gospel. Knowing good and well, literally, hear me out, literally, there was a great chance he would be going there and eaten alive. And he said, I want to go and I want to spread the gospel to these people. So the ship captain says that to James Calvert, and James Calvert, this is all documented, this is a true story by the way. James Calvert looks back at the ship captain and says, we died before you came here. Let's continue on. That's what he considered their life to be. We're already dead. We'll do whatever it takes to go and reach those people. We'll do whatever it takes. And if death is the end of this, so be it. But we're going to go and be obedient to the Scriptures and go and spread the gospel to those who need it. He spent 18 years with those people. James Calvert spent 18 years with the people of Fiji. Completely devoted his life to them. Thousands upon thousands of people were saved, including the king of those people. The king was responsible for, they had their own type of pagan worship for these cannibalistic rituals. He had these, what they call, quote, death drums. So he'd start banging the death drum. They'd bring a member of their people forward. They would kill him and eat him. And so the king was the one who was responsible for banging that drum. When that drum sounded, that meant the ritual was about to begin. The king, over time, a long period of time, with James Calvert being there, the king became saved. Answered the call of the gospel. Churches were planted in Fiji. And it's even documented that king would begin worship services with those same drums that were once meant to usher in this pagan ritual for cannibalism, was now the symbol that said we're meeting to worship God. This is a husband, a wife, and a small family lit the entire island on fire with the gospel. It takes boldness, and it takes sacrifice and self-denial and courage, and it takes character. James Calvert, those are just two small, there's all kinds of other details that go in the story. His whole entire time with them was a life of sacrifice. Before the people were even saved, there's one story that goes where they had some kind of ritual when someone important passed away. They would bring a woman in and the king would strangle her with his bare hands in front of the entire people. And James Calvert begged, said, no, what can I do to prove? And the king said, cut off all your fingers and I won't do it. And he did it. Just right there in front of everyone. Just chopped his own finger off just to say, this is how badly I want you to stop this. And hear the call of the gospel. And it's just year after year after year devoting his entire life to these people. And I don't remember the numbers, but all I can tell you are thousands and thousands and thousands of people were saved. Hundreds of churches spread. There's a lineage that you can be linked to James Calvert, of disciples who made disciples who made disciples. What are we willing to give? What are we willing to give? And then on top of that, most importantly, what are we willing to give up? What are we willing to give up that people would be saved? In terms of what Paul wrote in the guidance of the Spirit, what are we willing to become that we might, quote, save some? I've said it time and time again in this book, following Christ is very, very costly. It's incredibly costly. It'll cost us everything. And I think one of the keys to all of this is wrapping up right here, found in verses 4 and 5. So let's finish up here. Verses 4 and 5 of chapter 16 of Acts. The Word of God says this. Now while they were passing through the cities, they were delivering the decrees which had been decided upon by the apostles and elders who were in Jerusalem for them to observe. So the churches were being strengthened in the faith and were increasing in number daily. Haven't you missed seeing that line? Remember early on in Acts where it seemed like every paragraph ended that same way? And their number was being added daily? Oh, that's just beautiful to read that. I love that part. The last point I want to make this morning. Disciples are shaped by the result, not the means. Disciples are shaped by the result, not the means. And here's what I mean by that. The standard church model goes like this. We see that churches across the nation do this. We figure out what we like, what programs do we like, what ministries do we like, how do we like to serve, what style do we like, all those kind of things. And so we figure out all those and what makes us comfortable and what is our preference, and then we start seeing the results based on those preferences. And so we figure out all the things that we like first, and then we say, and what did it do? Here's all that we do, all the things that we like, now what are the results? It should be flip-flopped. It should be, what do we want, so what are we going to do to get it? What do we want to see happen, and what will it take to get there? Not just, here's what I like to do, therefore it leads to this. No, we want this, what can we do to get it? If you think I'm just pulling that out of thin air, out of this text, I implore you to go back and look at verse 15. What was the goal of Paul before coming to Lystra? At the very end of the chapter, you read it. I want to go and I want to strengthen the churches that we visited first. I want to go back. I want to see all those people, those churches again. That was Paul's mission. I want to go check them. I want to edify them. I want to go strengthen them. I want to go encourage them. Paul never said, well, I'm going to set out, I'll come across a fellow named Timothy, and I'll circumcise him, and then we'll see the results. No, no, no. He said, I'm going to go do this. Everything else that happened along the way was being guided by the Spirit. That's beautiful. I mean, that's just terrific. He was simply following the Spirit wherever the Spirit led him. And it's so important to first figure out, what is it that we're pursuing in accordance with God's will? What do we want to see God do according to His will and His Word? And what will it take for that to happen? Instead of just doing what I want and hoping for good results, this morning let's be encouraged. Let's be people who are encouraged by this text. And we should ask the important question of what am I willing to give up? What am I willing to become? That people would be saved. And if we need the motivation, if we need the model for it, we look no further than the church. We look no further than what God has given to us, the God of the universe, by which all things came into existence. He gave it all for us. People may ask, well, how is it that we sacrifice? I'd say, look at Christ. If we're crucified with Him, if we've been crucified with Christ, it's going to resemble something similar to the cross. Self-denial. Jesus even said it in His very own words. Any man who follows after me must deny himself, Pick up that cross and follow me every waking moment, every day. It is costly to follow the King. He is not safe for us to follow, but he's true, and he's pure, and he's love. And he had a mission for the world, and we've been invited to take part in that mission. We're crucified with Christ. Are we not called to do the exact same thing as him? To empty ourselves. And for us to be asking the questions, what would you have us do? What should I give up? What should I become? What should I let go of? That the world will receive the gospel of Christ in me. Be encouraged by Acts 16 this morning. Be encouraged by the stories of faithful men and women who have gone before us. Not in their own hands, but God is using them in a great and mighty way. All because of their boldness and their courage. To see people who are lost and dead and dying in sin be given life through the gospel call. Let's close.